Welcome to In-Silico Trials Real Impact, the In-Silico UK podcast that's revolutionizing the way we think about medical innovation. I'm Professor Alejandro Frangi from the University of Manchester, and I'll be your guide through this fascinating world of in-silico technologies. In each episode, we'll dive into cutting-edge research and groundbreaking news that are shaping the future of medical product development and regulation. From computational modeling to simulated clinical trials, we are exploring how digital approaches are transforming healthcare, making it safer, more efficient, more equitable, and incredibly precise. So, whether you're a researcher, regulator, a member of the public, or a patient representative, or simply curious about the future of medicine, tune in as we unravel the complex world of in-silico methods and their real-world impact. Get ready to discover how computer-simulated trials are leading to very real breakthroughs in patient care. In-Silico Trials Real Impact, where algorithms and data are saving lives. Let's begin.
All right, so let's dive into this.
Okay.
You're curious about personalized high tibial osteotomy,
Right.
HTO we'll call it,
Yeah.
for treating early knee osteoarthritis.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to know,
Yeah.
is it really as safe as the traditional method?
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're interested in these in silico clinical trials,
Right.
basically testing things out virtually before they ever touch a real patient.
Yeah.
Sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It really is cutting edge stuff.
Right.
And this study you sent over dives headfirst into this world.
Yeah.
They took 3D printed plates,
Okay.
custom designed for each patient's knee,
Wow.
and compared them to the standard one-size-fits-all plate.
So they're putting these virtual plates into virtual knees.
Exactly.
Okay.
They built these detailed computer models of actual patients.
Wow.
And then simulated everyday movements like walking or squatting.
Uh-huh.
The goal was to see how those plates held up over time,
Okay.
essentially giving each plate a virtual stress test.
So this is what really blew my mind.
Okay.
They even simulated different stages of bone healing.
It's a game changer in terms of research.
Wow.
Think about it. In a real-world study,
Yeah.
you can't ethically put a patient through the same surgery multiple times just to see how different factors might affect the outcome.
Right.
But in a simulation,
Yeah.
you can run those scenarios over and over again, tweaking different variables each time.
It's like having a surgical time machine and a rewind button all in one.
Yeah.
So you're telling me they can see how these plates perform weeks or even months after the virtual surgery.
That's the power of in-silico trials.
Wow.
They can compress time
Yeah.
and eliminate a lot of the uncertainties you'd have with a traditional study.
Okay, so this all sounds incredibly cool.
Yeah.
But let's get down to brass tacks.
Sure.
You mentioned that they were comparing these personalized plates
Right.
to the generic ones.
Mm-hmm.
Does this study tell us which type of HTO is actually better
That's a great question.
at treating early knee osteoarthritis?
And it's important to understand that this specific study
Okay.
wasn't designed to compare how well each type of HTO treated the condition itself. They were primarily focused on safety, making sure those personalized plates were just as strong and reliable.
So before we even talk about effectiveness, we need to be sure that these newfangled plates aren't going to grumble under pressure.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's like building a house.
Right.
You want to make sure the foundation is solid before you start worrying about the paint color.
Makes sense.
In this case, they wanted to rule out any increased risk of the personalized plates breaking or failing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how do they go about testing that? I mean, we're talking about virtual bones and virtual movements.
Right.
How can they be sure those simulations accurately reflect what happens in a real knee?
That's where the design of the in-silico trial becomes crucial.
Okay.
And this is a point you were particularly curious about. To make sure their virtual test was as realistic as possible, they simulated a wide range of activities, not just simple walking.
Okay.
They looked at things like squatting, going up and down stairs, even more strenuous movements that would really put stress on those plates.
So they weren't just simulating a leisurely stroll in the park. They were putting these virtual knees through a boot camp.
You could say that. They even factored in things like removing screws from the plates later on to see how that might impact their strength.
Wow.
They were trying to be as thorough as possible in recreating the real-world conditions these plates would face.
It sounds like they really thought of everything.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, even with all that detail, there are still some limitations to this kind of virtual testing, right?
Of course, no simulation is perfect.
Right.
One of the limitations they acknowledged was that in their model, the virtual bone healing process was the same for all the patients.
Yeah.
Even though we know people heal at different rates in real life.
So everyone in the virtual world heals perfectly and on the exact same schedule.
That's right.
Okay.
And another limitation was that they use the same loading pattern, meaning the way forces are distributed across the knee during movement for every virtual patient.
Even though in reality, everyone walks and squats a little differently.
Exactly. So there's room for improvement in terms of personalizing those factors within the simulation.
Okay.
But even with those limitations, they were confident in the overall reliability of their findings.
Well, that brings us to the million-dollar question.
Okay.
Did those personalized plates pass the virtual stress test?
Let's talk about those results and what they mean for you.
Were they as safe as the generic ones?
Okay. So here's the key finding.
Okay.
And this is great news for you.
Right.
At 12 weeks post-surgery, there was no statistically significant difference in the risk of plate failure.
Wow.
Between the personalized and the generic groups.
So even with those limitations we talked about, they were still able to show that those custom-fit plates were just as reliable as the standard ones.
And that's a big hurdle cleared for personalized HTO.
That's huge.
It means that tailoring the plate to the individual patient's anatomy didn't introduce any new safety concerns.
It's like they've proven that you can have the potential benefits of a more precise fit.
Yeah.
Without compromising on the structural integrity of the implant.
You got it.
Right.
And remember, this was all done virtually.
Right.
Without involving any actual patients.
Yeah.
That's a key advantage of In-Silico trials.
Yeah.
They offer a safe and efficient way to evaluate new devices before moving to real-world testing.
It's like having a safety net for medical innovation.
Exactly.
You can test the limits of a design in a virtual environment without putting anyone at risk.
And the cost savings are significant as well.
Oh, right.
Traditional clinical trials can be incredibly expensive and time-consuming.
Yeah, for sure.
In-Silico trials offer a way to streamline that process, potentially accelerating the development of new treatments.
So it's faster, it's safer, and it's more cost-effective.
Right.
It seems like In-Silico trials have a lot going for them.
They do.
But if we're being honest, no method is perfect.
Right.
We've already touched on some of the limitations. Are there any other drawbacks we should consider?
Well, it's important to remember that these simulations, while powerful, are still based on our current understanding of biomechanics and bone healing.
Right.
As our knowledge evolves, these models will need to be refined and updated.
So we can't treat these virtual trials as the be-all and end-all.
Right.
They're a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But we still need real-world data to confirm their findings.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In-Silico trials are a fantastic tool for early-stage testing and for guiding the design of more targeted clinical trials.
Okay.
But they shouldn't replace those trials altogether.
It's like having a dress rehearsal before the big performance.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It helps you iron out the kinks and make sure everyone knows their cues.
Right.
But the real magic happens on opening night.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, our listener,
who's
been patiently soaking up all this information. You're interested in personalized HTO for your early knee osteoarthritis.
Right.
And you want to know if it's a safe and effective option.
Yeah.
What does this deep dive tell us?
Here's the takeaway.
Okay.
This study provides strong evidence that personalized HTO using a custom-fit plate is at least as safe as the traditional approach.
Okay.
While more research is needed to determine if it's more effective in treating osteoarthritis itself.
Right.
This study is a crucial step in the right direction.
It's like a green light for further exploration of personalized HTO.
Exactly. And that's where things get really exciting.
Okay.
If we can refine these In-Silico models, incorporating more individualized factors like bone healing rates and loading patterns, we can potentially unlock even greater benefits for patients.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we're moving toward a world where treatments are tailored to each person's unique anatomy and needs.
Precisely.
Wow.
And the study on personalized HTO offers a glimpse into that future.
It's like the difference between getting a suit off the rack versus having one tailor-made just for you.
That's a perfect analogy. And if we can create virtual models this detailed for knee surgery, just imagine the possibilities for other parts of the body.
Spinal implants, hip replacements, the potential applications seem endless.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And that's where I think things get really interesting for you.
Right.
As we move towards a world where treatments are increasingly personalized, it raises important questions about how we gather information and make decisions about our health.
You're saying this isn't just about the technology.
Yeah.
It's about how we use it to empower patients.
Exactly.
With more personalized data available.
It becomes even more crucial for patients to be active participants in their healthcare decisions.
Right.
Imagine sitting down with your doctor and discussing not just the general risks and benefits of a procedure, but how it would specifically impact your body based on your own unique virtual model.
That's incredible.
Right.
It takes the guesswork out of the equation.
Exactly.
And allows for a much more informed and collaborative decision-making process.
Precisely.
Wow.
And as this technology continues to evolve,
yeah,
it will be fascinating to see how it shapes the future of medicine.
So for you, our listener, the takeaway from this deep dive is that personalized HTO is showing real promise.
It is.
It's potentially safer, more precise, and could lead to better outcomes.
Right.
And while more research is always needed,
Yeah.
this study using In-Silico trials is a big leap forward.
And remember, this is just one example of how technology is changing the way we approach healthcare.
Right.
As virtual models become more sophisticated and personalized data becomes more accessible.
Yeah.
The possibilities for improving our health and well-being are truly remarkable.
It's an exciting time to be alive, especially if you're interested in the cutting edge of medicine. We'll keep our eyes peeled for new developments, and in the meantime, stay curious and keep asking those great questions.